Thank you, 𝗂𝗵𝗁
456. 𝗂𝗵𝗁 456?
Because you're a 𝗂𝗵𝗁 and you haven't posted a YouTube video in 4, 5, 6 days.
Sometime in November-ish 2022, I watched the anime Chainsaw Man for the first time ever. Chainsaw Man is like one of the most appealing manga to people, as soon as you see the concept of a boy whose head transforms into a chainsaw alongside chainsaws pouring out of his arms, is there anything even cooler than that ever? I watched the first 3 episodes. Don't watch it again. I loved it. But did I watch it again? No. Why? I simply just forgot. That's all it was. I didn't think it was bad. I still reposted Chainsaw Man videos, but I couldn't keep up. Fast forward all the way to November 2023. Chainsaw Man once again rolls into my life. I'd watched JJK at this point since all of the hype from the Shibuya arc was coming in. This is when I started getting back into anime and manga as a whole. So I see Chainsaw Man and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the first manga I've read in a while, in a long time. So I read it. Over the course of 2 weeks, I finished Chainsaw Man Part 1, and it's one of the greatest things I've read. When I moved on to Part 2, I loved it. I think everybody can agree the first few arcs of Part 2 were amazing, especially up to the point where I had been reading. However, there was still that weird lingering question. Where is this story leading to? As interesting as it is with its characters, its plotline, what is the point of all of this? So on March 24th, 2026, Chainsaw Man concluded with its final chapter releasing titled Thank You Chainsaw Man. Now, this was pretty crazy considering that 2 weeks before that, there was just a random out of nowhere announcement, final chapter drops in 2 weeks. We were all really shocked by that, I think. I think the whole Chainsaw Man community was like, is this real? Is this an error? Especially with Shonen Jump changing it to be continued. The chapter drops, and in class, I read it all. Not quickly, not as quickly as other chapters, because this is 30 pages long, whereas the other chapters were I think 12 pages, 15 at most. So I read it, and I think to myself, what the hell have I just read? I'm like, okay, you know what? I have faith in Fujimoto because I didn't not like this. It's just that it feels very weird. So I go all the way back to the beginning of this chapter and read it again from the beginning. In the chapter prior to this, we see Pochita and Denji after being eaten by a strange devil, which we don't actually get the name of or anything. It just devours Pochita and Denji. Pochita reveals to Denji, look, you're low-key a bum. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm going to eat myself in order to erase Chainsaw Man from existence and providing you a decently happy life without me, alongside bettering the entire world from the events that have just occurred. As all of this is to do with the glory of Chainsaw Man or whatever. And it was a really sad chapter, seeing that panel of Pochita and Denji hugging in class high-key had me tearing up. Geez. It ends on a shot of Denji's cabin all the way from chapter 1, an exact parallel, which is where chapter 232 opens. As you may recall, Denji had a heart disease in the beginning of part 1. He coughs up blood onto his hand, saying that he felt like he had a good and a bad dream. He looks up out his window, not necessarily reminiscing, but sort of identifying things that he had in his past life, such as having good dreams to his standards, eating with a girl, playing video games, and he comments on wanting a pet dog. Eventually a car comes outside his house and it's the Yakuza members, the ones who were wanting the 𝗂𝗵𝗶𝘀 devil to kill Denji. And they successfully do that, well the boss of the Yakuza does. He kills Denji, Denji dies, and he says to himself, oh man, am I really gonna kick the bucket before even one good thing could happen to me? That's just my luck though. He rolls over and looks and sees a naked woman. It's a naked woman. At least I got to have one last good dream. Before it is properly revealed that this is Power, obviously from part 1 once again, as she is screaming for blood and trying to get it all from all of these zombies. Now after successfully destroying these guys, she sees Denji's corpse bleeding out and comments on how he smells like a dog, saying that she likes dogs, which is likely the reason why she ended up saving him. So she makes a contract, giving him life in exchange for him belonging to her until he dies. Just as she makes that contract, a chain, say that again, comes, slices her arm, and we get the reveal that the control devil is back. Exactly like part 1, she claims to be here for help, pointing at them saying that they belong to her, before it's actually revealed this isn't Makima, this is Nayuta. Now, something I was really scared of when I was reading the chapter, because the silhouette, Fujimoto knew what he was doing. I genuinely thought this was Makima the first time. Oh my gosh, the way my heart dropped when I was reading it. But that basically brings in the implications that this new universe, it isn't just, it's all a dream, as Denji said before. Now, Power goes to attack Nayuta, and Nayuta just shoots back, Before we get the cut to them now working for her with all of her dogs. Sends them on a mission to go to a school where where a devil's been sighted. And, you know, she's busy, she can't do that, she's just playing video games. And Denji says to himself, video games? Lucky. We get to see that 𝗵𝗲 also likes to have a bond with her. As Power questions, 𝗵𝗲 likes her? Why? Now, this brings in the fact that the alternate universe, once again, isn't just a full reset, but the events from the previous universe, our main Chainsaw universe, have sort of leaked into here, with connections and bonds being strung together. You know the red string theory, where every soulmate has a red string attached to them, e.g. Denji and Power? It sort of implies that, where they will meet in every universe, I guess. Not necessarily that, but the events of the universe from before. This is Pochita's ideal world. Power's facing a lot of jealousy, saying 𝗵𝗲 shouldn't love anyone but her, and commenting that Nayuta must be the control devil. She obviously hasn't revealed to Denji and Power at all. And then they see this huge bug crab looking devil. Denji says, oh, I used an axe the other day, so give me a chainsaw. So she makes him a blood chainsaw, slicing her wrist open, and they annihilate that devil. The devil's been exterminated, this area is safe now. Don't touch the blood out of the body, please. Denji then sees school students leaving school and thinks to himself, man, I wish I went to school. Before seeing a girl carrying the chicken devil, Denji sees this devil, which is arguably the most intimidating devil of all time, as he calls on Power, but Power's just kind of geeking out over blood. So Denji runs, trying to save this girl from this devil, this horrible being. Damn it. Pursuing her, chasing her, feeling the need to get to her on time, as she begins to fall, nearly collapsing over the devil, and as he goes to grab her, he throws away his chainsaw. They both look at each other. Denji apologizes for sort of abruptly saving this pretty girl. My bad. And she says the best line in this whole entire series of these 232 chapters. Thank you, Chainsaw Man. We see Denji's heartbeat with Pochita still there. Now, whether this is a visual representation or not, this implies that Denji has retained some sort of memory over Pochita. If he does actually have this chainsaw heart, Pochita is still in this world in one way or another, living through Denji. The two teenagers stare at each other as she says bye, and he says, hey, but that devil. And she walks away. Power jumps on him, saying she's hungry and she wants food, and Denji comments on his heart thumps before Power makes the gene's discovery, saying that he has heart thump disease. Because, you know, she is a peak nurse, doctor. The girl kicks the ball with her friends as Denji looks, having a sort of half smile, not feeling sad, but he feels some sort of joy that he doesn't understand why. Why is he feeling so much happiness for a stranger he doesn't know, playing football with her friends? Denji and Power walk away, discussing what they're going to have for lunch and when they get home, as Denji retains one thing that he commonly had throughout the whole manga by the end, being broke. Now, this video isn't to sort of sway your opinion on whether you like the ending of Chainsaw Man or not. It's more of just my way of perceiving it and my understanding, as I've been wanting to make a video about this on my TikTok platform. However, it's just so deep and such an important ending to me, where I can't really find the right way to word it without making a full-length video. But there are many criticisms from this ending. The corny line of "Thank you, Chainsaw Man," which I don't see a problem with compared to a lot of the other lines. It's very much Fujimoto for me. To people believing that this is like a whole "it was just a dream," which I don't really see how they understand that. But the main thing I want to cover is the implications for the rest of the universe. For example, you might have been wondering, where was Aki? Where was Reze? Where was 𝗂𝗶𝗀? Where was 𝗃𝗵𝗁? So first of all, before we get onto that, let's go on to Fujimoto's inspirations for this ending. The general consensus on Chainsaw Man's ending and Fujimoto's inspiration for it are believed to be The Big Lebowski and Spirited Away, two very popular movies which I admittedly have not watched. Now, Spirited Away I've watched bits of, but I never finished it, and The Big Lebowski has been a movie that I've been told to watch and recommended a lot, but have I watched it? Nope. So I can't really explain these endings as a whole, as I don't have any proper reference or description or knowledge about it. However, I'm just going to use the interviews that Fujimoto spoken about this. Do you know of the movie The Big Lebowski? The movie really made me think, what even was that when I was done watching it? Nothing was resolved, wasn't everything pretty meaningless? But still, the protagonist had development, and the story progressed. There was this sublime absurdity that I loved. I want Chainsaw Man to give the reader that a sort of aftertaste too. This was way before part 2 ended when he said all of this. So when I heard of it, I kind of knew it was going to have an everyone forgets or like there was no point of this ending. I still had faith in Fujimoto, of course, as I'm making this video now. And on this Reddit post, I found a comment from the user named Friendly93, where they said, "The Big Lebowski is a movie that's largely centered on the case of a mistaken identity where the main character, Jeff the Dude Lebowski, is confused for a different rich man named Jeffrey Lebowski and ends up dragged into a chaotic mess of when all he wants is compensation for his rug that was ruined." It's basically just Fujimoto commenting on how he wanted part 2 to follow in a similar structure, an episodic series of chaotic, plot-driven events happening around Denji and Asa when neither of them wants any part of it. Now, from this explanation, that is exactly the plot of part 2 in my opinion, especially the final few arcs, because you really think Asa and Denji wanted this different world. They wanted to make their own world, while Denji wanted to make his world with 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 that Asa could be in. None of that really happened. They're just stuck in all of this chaos and the world basically ending. Now, for the Spirited Away interview, Fujimoto's talking just generally about, I think, Ghibli movies from what I can understand from this. I'll link the source all in my the description of this video, but I'm just going to cut to the main part. She's become so strong. It's like she's a completely different person. As viewers, when we see Chihiro having grown up so much, we can't help but think she's been through so much, but when Chihiro returns to the real world at the end, she's scared of the darkness in the tunnel again and clings to her parents. That's when I thought, wait a minute. I felt really sad, wondering, is Chihiro going to forget everything that happened in this movie? I see. But I'm sure that's not the case. As Eniba said, nothing that happens is ever forgotten. You just can't recall it, and that's exactly right. It raises all sorts of questions, doesn't it? Like, can she really live a normal life in the real world while keeping her memories of the other world a secret? Or haven't the bullies also gained some kind of experience in the real world during her adventure in the other world? And so on. I think most people who watched Spirited Away thought Chihiro doesn't need to go back to the real world. After all, she's more alive there, she's grown as a person and she's valued by the others. But the film depicts a sense of the absurd and incomprehensible, starting with the gods who appear in that other world, and that comes across to us. So both for Chihiro and for the story itself, we can ultimately accept that it's better for her to return to her own world, and that leads to that final loss. But having watched the movie all the way through, we feel like Chihiro will be okay, even after all that. That's exactly what "you never forget what you've experienced" means. Somehow, Spirited Away truly is amazing, isn't it? Now, this is more clear to what Fujimoto's idea was going into the ending of Chainsaw Man. I think he liked the idea of having a plot based off The Big Lebowski, but Spirited Away and his perspective to the ending of that is truly what he intends for the Chainsaw Man ending to be like. Now, I actually really like this, and this is kind of how I imagined it, because he's making some great points, such as, would Denji remember? We see the 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 in his heart. Whether that is or isn't literally there, it's still signifying that in one way or another, 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 is with Denji. And as Fujimoto says, Chihiro will be okay even after all that. That's just saying how, after the events of everything, this new world is the world 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 wanted for Denji. Throughout their whole contract and dream, Denji really is getting the happiness that he deserves, and so is everybody else in this universe. Now that that's opened the eyes of Fujimoto and the idea he had, I now want to cover the implications that this universe reset has by going over all of Chainsaw Man Part 1. Basically everything we see in this new universe is all in Volume 1, or a good solid chunk of it is. A sad thing that I'm kind of realising just now as I open the volume, that first page of Denji looking down off into the city, there's nothing there, it's just him. I doubt this is like intentional foreshadowing, but it's very tragic to see how coincidental this is and how it lines up with the new world. We get to see everything after the first 20 pages of Chapter 1 in this new universe, where in the original verse, 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏's with Denji and they're talking about their dreams. Instead of hugging 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 laying on the floor, he's hugging nothing. Now, the thing about 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 is that Denji had nobody to talk to for basically his whole life, so imagining him in this world is really upsetting beforehand. He says to himself in Chapter 1, "When I can't sleep, I think about my debt, and then it's even harder to fall asleep." And then he goes on to talk to 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 about his dreams, which he can't do in this world. It's so sad to think this. 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 is such an integral part of not just the story, but Denji's life too, and his upbringing, I suppose. "I will glaze Chainsaw Man until my heart stops beating." Chainsaw Man was an integral part of my life, and it will still be, just in the same way that 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 stays in Denji's heart. Chainsaw Man will stay in my heart forever. It's a really powerful manga, especially Part 1 being one of the best of all time in my opinion. Part 2, yes, it's flawed, but at the same time, it holds a warm spot for me, maybe because I was viewing it weekly and witnessing this all at once, but I do think that when it's animated, it will be a lot better, and it could possibly get more positive reception. I feel like it would. What did you guys think of the ending of Chainsaw Man? Like I said, I'm pretty biased. I'm gonna really miss it. it was really a big part of my life. You know, reading it at my lowest, my highest. Fujimoto, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.